Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Saturday, August the 12th, 2023. I'm going to continue with my format where I have separate videos for the day's astrology and my theme of the day. So today I will be talking about Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, to continue with a Russian theme, because I recently talked about Vladimir Putin, but that will be in a separate video, and on the pinned comment to this video I'll give you the link if you can't find it elsewhere. So what I'm going to do in this video is talk about today's astrology and have an I Ching reading for the day. So today is Saturday, August the 12th, so let's get straight into today's astrological picture. So here we go. This is set as usual for noon in New York for today, August the 12th. So what is going on? You can see that there are no longer any planets in air signs. The moon has left Gemini, so we're back to this airless world that we've been living in. If you're an air sign like me, being a Gemini, you don't find this great. It's a time when it's difficult to breathe a bit. People are not so interested in our conversational gems. The emphasis is more on the emotional and physical side of things. So now that the moon has moved out of Gemini, perhaps it's time to say a little less. But on the plus side, the moon is now in Cancer, and the moon works very well in Cancer. After all, the moon rules Cancer. And you can see here we have the moon in Cancer, and it's making a trine aspect to Saturn. That's a very fortunate aspect in a way, because the moon in Cancer, being in a water sign, can be just a little too emotional, a little too into sort of maudling sentimentality, and Saturn can create a bit of reality, can bring it down to earth. So if we want to ground our feelings, we really can. And of course, it's Saturday. For many of us, it's a weekend. It's a day of rest. So Cancer is a very domestic-orientated sign. So with a moon in Cancer, it can be a relaxing weekend. We can spend time in our home with our family. So in that sense, it should be great. But there are a couple of things we need to be aware of. Look at this, the Sun and Venus. Venus is going retrograde, and the Sun is moving to a conjunction of Venus. Now, that conjunction is not exact until tomorrow, but we are starting to feel it. And I would argue that the Sun conjunct Venus is actually one of the worst aspects in the book. Reason being, Venus is a planet of relating. It's quite an emotional planet, and it's conjunct Sun. The Sun is this burning star. It's, in the jargon, it's combust. Venus is burnt up. So this can have implications for the way we relate to people. It may be difficult, perhaps because someone's got too big an ego, and egos can be quite destructive, particularly when people have big egos, and they're not really aware of the impact they're having on other people. With this Sun Venus conjunction, remember, Sun is in Leo. Sun rules Leo. The Sun is extremely strong in Leo. So it's got this incredible ability at the moment to burn things up, because it can't think about anything else but itself. So really bear that in mind. Venus is now moving into a position where it's at its absolute weakness. it's at its absolute weakest. So we should be very careful when it comes to all activities connected with Venus. Certainly not a time for for having cosmetic surgery, because you can imagine cosmetic surgery with Sun conjunct Venus in Leo. The Sun would be maybe a plastic surgeon with a big ego who thinks he knows best, and it all ends in a disastrous way. So this Sun conjunct Venus, yeah, it's getting worse. Today it's really hitting home. Tomorrow, I believe tomorrow it's going to be exact. So that really is something to think about. Also, Saturn is opposition the Sun-Mars midpoint. So there's the Sun, there's Mars, and the Sun and Mars almost a sign apart, sort of semi-sextile aspect between the Sun and Mars. So Sun in Leo, Mars in Virgo, and there's Saturn right on the midpoint, making the opposition. So this is not particularly fortunate. Sun-Mars is about how we assert ourselves. These are two male planets. So when you've got Saturn on the Sun-Mars midpoint, we may feel incredible frustration, or we may try to do something assertive or very sort of archetypally masculine and macho, and it could just all end up as being a disaster. So be careful about any activity which is very physical, which is dangerous. Whether it's, I don't know, running marathons, firing guns, firing rockets, whatever you're planning on doing today, it's probably not a good idea, because Saturn could cause major restrictions and frustrations, and in a worst case scenario could actually cause injury. Sun Mars can be associated with fire. So if you're doing stuff with fire, be extra careful. Don't throw around propellants and gasoline and stuff like that, because it could all end in a fireball. But not a very nice fireball, a Saturnine fireball, which causes a major restriction and aggravation. So be careful there. Also, the Aries point is on the Mercury Hades midpoint. So Mercury Hades can be about bad language. Mercury is the communication planet. Hades is to do with things that are somewhat underhand, somewhat filthy. Hades is often connected with garbage. You put Mercury and Hades together, you get bad language. You put the Aries aspecting the Mercury-Hades midpoint, and we just might see in our environment, because we're talking about the Aries point, the world at large, just people using bad language, people just being crude. And indeed, when you look at the world around you, when we look at the world around us, it might just seem crude. So don't get too upset about it. Maybe you'll see some graffiti, or you'll see sort of bad behavior on the streets, people screaming obscenities, whatever. Don't get too upset about it. Yes, it is a sign of the world in which we live in, but it is a fairly short-lived aspect. So don't take it to heart. Also, like yesterday, I said that the North Node was semi-square the Mars-Saturn midpoint. It's still semi-square the Mars-Saturn midpoint. Indeed, it's really close now, the node on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. So this might also tell us about how the world occurs to us, how our various contacts occur to us. We can see the maybe despair, destruction, frustration, in certain situations, with the death that's that's around us, not necessarily us personally, but just the people around us, our contacts. So that could be a bit grim, but don't worry. Mars is moving on, and that node semi-square the Mars Saturn midpoint is not going to last for too long. So let me now look at my forecasts for the 12 signs. So these are my forecasts for today, which is Saturday, August the 12th, 2023. Aries. Everyone needs to relax. Even you, Aries. The moon is now in Cancer, and this is a chance to stay at home and to reconnect with your family. And it is not your job to take the initiative, but you nonetheless have a chance to make people feel better about themselves. Your simple words can have a healing impact. Taurus. You're moving around, engaged in harmless activity, but you can't help thinking that something is hemming you in and that your freedom of maneuver is being restricted. Whatever restrictions you feel are more about perception than reality, and it may be that your view of the world is being temporarily obscured. Gemini. Just because it is a Saturday doesn't mean that it can't be a useful day. You have the opportunity to stabilize your overall situation with particular emphasis on the financial side of things. Perhaps because you're more realistic about the limits of your buying power. If you're working, your sensible approach will give a boost to your reputation. Cancer. The moon is now established in your star sign, where it makes a favourable aspect to Saturn. You're very much in your element, and you understand the various currents going on around you. But you can benefit from one-to-one contacts. Saturn represents a person who can be respected, who might be disciplined, but who also has a broad view of the world. Leo. You need to consider the impact you're having on the world around you. You have a powerful personality, and other people are going to respond to you in a particular way. For example, you have to consider whether you're creating the right environment for free-flowing communication. Words not spoken are often words that are lost forever. Virgo. It's a time in your life when relationships are important. Even if you're single, you have to accept that there are certain people who play a big role in your life. And today you have a chance to get close to someone important for reasons dependent on the situation. Make the most of all that is on offer. Libra. In an ideal world, you'd be working or focusing on business because this is where you're strongest at the moment. And even if you're not going into work, you can do some useful preparation. In terms of your social life, be careful. The Sun is closing in on a conjunction with Venus, and some of your friends might take you for granted. Scorpio. Pay attention to other people, including the people closest to you. It seems that they are not quite their normal selves, and they may feel pressurized by circumstances. Your job is to give them space and also to work out what is bothering them. Your caring approach will be much appreciated. Sagittarius. Be careful, Sagittarius. You're tempted to stray into areas which might seem enticing, but which are nonetheless laden with danger. So an activity that seems harmless, but which you don't fully understand, could have a hidden cost. You might also want to consider the legal and moral ramifications of whatever you happen to be planning. Capricorn. Saturn, your ruler, is opposition the Sun-Mars midpoint. You may find yourself putting a huge amount of energy into something, so much so that you might burn yourself out. It's therefore very important that you know your limits. Yet, if you're able to calm down, it can be a pleasant day, helped by the soothing influence of the special people in your life. Aquarius. Aquarius is a very different sign from Capricorn, but they are both ruled by Saturn. So, like Capricorn, you have to make sure that you don't overextend yourself or become obsessive about one particular thing. It would be better that you took it easy and focused on your personal well-being. Time spent close to water could be beneficial. Pisces. Watch what you say. Your words could be troubling and might give the wrong impression. And don't bring up material that has any risk of causing offence. Though if you stay away from the verbal side of things, it can be a great day. You can enjoy yourself and also channel your creativity. So if you want to make something, now might be your chance. So I'm now going to move on to the I Ching. As always, I threw 3 coins in the air and I asked the question, what is Saturday going to be like for visitors to my YouTube channel? So the first hexagram I threw was hexagram number 28, preponderance of the great. So if you look at this hexagram, you can see that these 4 lines in the middle, these 4 unbroken lines in the middle, are really like a really heavy load. And these, the top and the bottom ones, are like handles. You can see the handles really are not really big enough to deal with this load. So we're going to start off the day sort of thinking that we're really taking on too much. We might feel we have to achieve something. We might feel we have to pick up this huge burden. But it may literally be too much for us. So, for example, on a physical sense, do not pick up heavy objects today. Under no circumstances with 28 preponderance of the great. If you think it might be too heavy for you, whatever it is, huge sack of potatoes, whatever, don't rush into it, because you could do yourself an injury there. So that applies also to concepts. If someone's got a problem, don't immediately help them with the problem. Work out what's involved, because if you're not careful, you could find that you are overcommitting yourself. Now, 1 line moves, the 5th line, and the 5th line kind of suggests that yes, we can have some success, perhaps relating to this huge problem we're trying to deal with. I mean, huge as in big, potentially, the potential to give ourselves an injury. We can have some success, but it's going to be very surface, a surface success. The I Ching talks about a withered poplar flowering. What it's kind of saying is the poplar is withered, it's dying, but it still is able to flower. I mean, just because it flowers doesn't mean everything's great. So where we're successful, or where we feel we're being successful, it may just be window dressing. We're actually dealing with something which is not really going anywhere. So the question is, what do we do? We go through the motions. It's not a bad thing to do, but we just have to remember that what we're dealing with is coming to the end. And this preponderance of a great, it does move to this hexagram, which is duration. This puts a different spin on it. I said that something was coming to an end, but it is duration. Duration is about doing something that can allow something to live on, can have duration. So it may be that we're dealing with something that appears to be on its last legs. But we may be able to change the situation. So something that appears to be finished, we can actually give it renewed life, and not just in a trivial sense. I mean, on a physical level, maybe there's some object in your home that is damaged or is really old, and you're just about to throw it out, and have another look at it. If you paid this object some attention, I don't know, it could be something as mundane as a kitchen pot that is, I don't know, looks as if it's on its last legs. And yeah, if we clean it or whatever, maybe it will last for years, hence duration. So consider how you can take something which appears to be on its last legs, which but it seems that all we can do is superficially give it a few more days of life or whatever. Consider how we can actually turn it into something which can last for a very long time, like maybe years. So yeah, so that's something to think about. So old things that appear to have had their day, don't give up on them, and consider the possibility that they might be around for years and years to come. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today. As I said, I have put out another video on Alexander Navalny. You can see the link in the comments. And I will talk to you tomorrow.